Welcome to The Explainer. Sometimes history pivots on a single moment, a few days where the entire world map of power just gets redrawn. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. If you love digging into these huge historical turning points, seriously, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss a thing.
Okay, let's dive right in. We're talking about the Suez Crisis. This is the story, the one event that really just blew the doors off the British Empire's image, shattering its superpower status for good. It's a tale of pride, a huge miscalculation, and a power shift that changed everything.
But here's the thing, to really get why Suez was such an absolute disaster for Britain, we've got to rewind a bit. We need to look at what the world looked like just before 1956. Because, spoiler alert, the empire was already standing on pretty shaky ground.
So, picture this. World War II is over. Britain is on the winning side, right? But they are completely broke. We're talking massive, crippling debt, mostly to the United States. And that weakness, it started a real domino effect. First, the jewel in the crown, India, gets its independence in 47. That's a huge blow. Then you start seeing these charismatic nationalist leaders popping up, guys like Egypt's Gamal Abdel Nasser, who are directly challenging Western power. You can just feel the empire starting to fray at the edges.
So, what was the one thing Britain was clinging to with everything it had? The Suez Canal. And you gotta understand, this wasn't just some big ditch full of water. It was called the lifeline of the empire for a reason. It was the shortcut for trade, it controlled shipping, but the big one? Oil. 70% of Britain's oil came through that canal. So losing it, that wasn't just losing a piece of territory. It was losing control, period.
So you've got this incredible setup, right? On one side, a declining empire, just desperate to hang on to whatever influence it has left. And on the other, a rising, super ambitious nationalist leader who's dead set on forging his own path. It was a collision course, and it was about to ignite a massive crisis.
And the whole thing finally blew up over a dam. I mean, can you believe it? Nasser had this grand vision to modernize Egypt, and the centerpiece was this massive project, the Aswan High Dam. But then the US and Britain pulled their funding. Well, Nasser was furious, and he hit back in the most dramatic way possible. He went on the radio and announced that Egypt was taking over the Suez Canal, just like that. The money from the canal, he said, would now pay for his dam.
Now, over in London, the British Prime Minister, Anthony Eden, he was absolutely livid. For him, this wasn't just a political move, it was a personal insult, a massive act of defiance. He didn't see a nationalist hero. No, he saw a dangerous dictator, a new Mussolini on the Nile, as he put it. And in his mind, this guy was threatening Britain's entire economic survival. Eden was ready for a fight.
But here's the catch. He couldn't just send in the troops. That would look, well, terrible. So Britain gets together with France, who also had a huge stake in the canal, and Israel, who had their own serious issues with Nasser, and they cook up this super secret plot. I mean, it's a classic bait and switch. Step 1, Israel invades Egypt. Step 2, Britain and France issue an ultimatum to both sides to back off. Step 3, and this is the key part, when Egypt refuses, Britain and France sweep in, pretending to be peacekeepers to secure the canal. Clever, huh? Or so they thought.
Okay, let's just pause on that for a second. Because this question really gets to the absolute heart of the matter. Why risk a war for a canal? It wasn't just about the money or even the oil. For Britain, controlling that canal, that was about their identity. It was one of the last great shining symbols of their empire. And to lose it, that felt like losing a fundamental part of who they were. All right, so the plan goes into motion. October 29th, the invasion begins. And at first, militarily, everything's going according to plan. It looks like it's working. But, and this is a huge but, Eden and his allies made one single monumental miscalculation. They had absolutely no idea how the rest of the world was about to react. And the global reaction was swift. On one hand, you had Britain and France trying to sell this whole thing as a neutral peacekeeping mission. We're just here to protect the waterway. But pretty much everyone else, especially the UN, saw right through it. They called it what it was, a blatant, old-school colonial land grab. And this view created a massive, massive rift with the one country Britain couldn't afford to upset.
And who was at the front of that line? The President of the United States, Dwight Eisenhower. And Furious doesn't even begin to cover it. He had been totally kept in the dark about this secret plot. He saw it as a dangerously reckless throwback to the Age of Empires, something that could set the whole Middle East on fire. Not to mention, it was a huge distraction from what the Soviets were doing in Hungary. He felt completely betrayed, and he was about to bring the hammer down.
But Eisenhower's weapon wasn't military, it was financial. He used the full might of the American dollar. The U.S. immediately blocked financial support and then threatened to do something that would cause a total meltdown: sell off America's massive holdings of the British pound. This kicked off a full-blown currency crisis. You could practically watch Britain's financial reserves just bleed out. $200 million, gone in a flash.
And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse for Britain, the Soviet Union decides to jump in. They saw a perfect opportunity to look like the good guys and expand their influence. So they started making these not-so-subtle threats about rocket attacks on London and Paris if the invasion didn't stop. All of a sudden, Britain is completely trapped, caught in this superpower vice grip.
So this grand secret plan, it completely fell apart in less than a week. Think about that. Pinned down by American economic warfare on one side and Soviet military threats on the other, Prime Minister Eden had absolutely no choice. He had to call a ceasefire and order a truly humiliating retreat. The invasion was over. Done.
The military side of things was a total failure, sure, but the political and symbolic damage, oh, that was so much worse, and it was permanent. In the eyes of the entire world, Britain's time as a top-tier superpower was officially over.
And the consequences, the fallout from this thing, it was immediate, and it was absolutely devastating. I mean, look at this. Prime Minister Eden, he had to resign in total disgrace. Nasser, he became a massive hero across the entire Arab world. The United States stepped in and replaced Britain as the big dog in the Middle East. And the whole process of decolonization, the end of the British Empire, just went into overdrive. Britain even announced it was pulling all its military bases from east of Suez. The Great Imperial Retreat had officially begun.
And really, this is the main takeaway. This is the big lesson from the whole Suez affair. It was a stark, brutal, and very public demonstration that Britain, the empire on which the sun never set, could no longer go it alone. It couldn't act like a major superpower without a green light from Washington. From that moment on, its place in the world had fundamentally changed. So, Suez forced Britain into a massive identity crisis. It had to redefine itself, shifting from being a global ruler to being more of a strategic partner. And that's a powerful lesson, right? It's something that is still so relevant today, and it kind of leaves you with this big question. If Suez was the moment that defined the end for Britain's empire, what will be the defining moments for the superpowers of our time? Hey, thanks for digging into this incredible story with us. If you enjoyed this breakdown, do us a favor and hit that like button. And of course, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next deep dive. But what do you think? Was Suez the most important turning point of the 20th century? Let us know down in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We'll see you next time.